Good morning. Nicholas Borneus of Capital Inc. I'm really delighted and honored to welcome you. It's 8:30 in the morning and we have a relatively packed room already. So I'm delighted and honored that we are hosting this event again. I think we have an amazing agenda, and I'm so proud that within the London International Shipping Week, that it's such an important global event, our agenda stands quite high. So without any further delay, I'd like to thank all the sponsors for making this event possible. I'd like to also start with Tom Attenborough of the London Stock Exchange. I was very honored to be invited to the opening bell yesterday, and it reminded me that this partnership that we have goes back 15 years. We have been hosting this event for so long, and we started at the London Stock Exchange, and then, you know, we have, well, not really, but so I would invite him to the podium. Again, thank you to all the sponsors, and thank you for the partnership.
Right. Good morning, everyone. It's an absolute delight to be here, and once again supporting Nicholas and Capital Link in what's always, I think, for the London Stock Exchange, an important sort of date in the diary and London International Shipping Week. And as I said to those who joined the market open yesterday, the linkages between the shipping industry, London as a maritime centre, and the capital markets and the success and growth of the financial markets are very, very deeply intertwined. And we're doing everything we can at the London Stock Exchange to continue to sort of build on that history, build on that platform, and increase the vibrancy of our markets. I wanted to start off by reflecting a little bit that, yes, I'm part of the London Stock Exchange. I head the international listings business at London. But LSEG, LSEG, is a business that is now a $50 billion market cap business listed on the London Stock Exchange, of course. But we are a very diversified, huge financial market infrastructure group. Some of you may have seen the recent branding campaign. If any of you came in through London Bridge or Waterloo or Victoria, there are billboards everywhere at the moment. I think trying to remind people that we're not just an exchange, but we are, you know, one of the world's leaders in data and analytics, in risk management and clearing, and of course in our capital markets business in which I sit. Back to the London Stock Exchange itself and activity on market. Look, it's not been the easiest time for any public markets, I think, around the world, given some of the macro backdrop that we faced. But London, I think, continues to absolutely hold its own in what's an increasingly competitive market. So we've seen about $18 billion raised in the London market year to date. It's been quite slow compared to, of course, the volumes that we saw back in 2021. But that puts us about double the amount of equity raised in the London market than our closest European peer, and puts us about where you'd expect us as being the busiest market globally outside of the US markets and Greater China. Many of you will be sort of familiar and with this chart. It's not all happy reading. I mean, of course, the capital raising environment for the maritime sector has been somewhat challenged over the last couple of years. The dark blue bars being IPOs, the sort of paler blue being further issues. And I think even in market conditions where investors are very much risk off and you see IPO volumes go down, you'd expect sort of further issuances in more normalized market conditions to continue to be driving on. It's been quieter even in those scenarios. I personally am a natural born optimist. Maybe that's 15 years of being an ECM banker that got into me. But I sort of look at the world at the moment, and you look at where interest rates are. You look at the ease of attaining bank financing, and you say, in that environment and over the coming years, capital markets have got to play their role in sort of stepping up and helping finance what's an absolutely critical sector. That said, and I'm not going to test your eyesight, and by the way, very happy to send these slides to anyone who wants them, but it's not been a totally sort of dead market either. We've seen 40 offerings since 2018 across the broader sector, raising close to $5 billion. Some of those are down the right-hand side, including some sort of significant IPOs and innovative structures in terms of the likes of Tufton Oceanic, Taylor Maritime, that have listed through fund structures on London and continue to scale up, which is exactly what we want companies to do on the London market, continue to use that market to grow and fund further organic and acquisitive growth. We've got a pretty significant shipping-related ecosystem on the London market, already. I think, of course, I think of London as not just a sort of financial hub, but in relation to this sector, very much a core centre for everything maritime. In a sense, it's been the home of so much in and around shipping. It's the centre of, the underwriting business, etc. And so whether it's sort of operators, traders, advisory, sort of research analysts, investors that congregate around the London market, I think London has a huge amount to offer. A number of very significant companies there that have been on the London market for a while. The sort of Braemars, the Clarksons, the James Fishers of the world, which continue to thrive. And importantly, on the sort of bottom half of the screen, if you can't read it, it just highlights some of the M&A activity that has occurred, I think, with the London market again. Companies on our market using paper to continue to acquire, grow, and scale. And that's what we want to continue to build on. A couple of recent examples. I mentioned Taylor Maritime. That's one of the funds that I think is listed in the last couple of years. Raised good money, been able to access further capital. Use the London market as a base from which to acquire as well. Obviously, having bought Grindrod relatively recently, and we're aware of a number of sort of fund type structures. Again, look at the London market as an efficient way of tapping into both institutional and retail capital. Outside of the pure shipping and operating sector, we were really delighted to host the IPO of Windward, and great to see Irit and team here in the audience today. Very exciting business. For those of you who don't know Windward, it's a SaaS software business in and around sort of sanctions compliance, a service provider to the shipping industry, which listed on our AIM market, London's growth market, and has continued to perform very well operationally on the London market, and in fact, quite recently announced a partnership with London Stock Exchange Group's data business to embed Windward's proposition into the broader shipping data that you can see if you are a Workspace or Icon terminal user, which is obviously a big part of our group business, and I'll come back to that in a second. But just thinking about sort of vibrancy of capital markets overall, I think, whilst we can't control necessarily the macro environment or investor sentiment, what we can do is make sure that our house is in order, and that we continue to fight as an exchange for London being as competitive a landscape as you can get for raising capital. And so, as many of you will be aware, we're in the middle, I would say, of a process of a sort of once in 30-year shift in our entire sort of listing regime. That's how the FCA have described it, by the way, a sort of once in a generation shift. We've already seen a number of those changes come through in terms of ability to list dual-class shares in London, lowering the free float requirement on the main market from 25% to 10%. And there are a whole range of things that are going to be enacted later this year as a result of the FCA's second primary markets effectiveness review, which will mean sort of collapsing the premium and standard segments on our main markets to one single segment, making it the requirements easier to get on that segment, but also importantly, I think, for this sector, making some of the requirements as a listed business a bit more straightforward around related party transactions and their approvals, around the significant transactions regime, and again, engagement with shareholders. So I think that will be an important sort of shot in the arm from a regulatory side for the London market as we complete this year. That's not the only thing that we're doing on the sort of supply side, if you like, making markets even more straightforward and easy to access, but we're doing a lot of work on the demand side as well, working with government around some of the sort of pension fund reform that we expect to see further news of was announced in the Mansion House speech over the summer. We expect to hear further details of that in the Chancellor's autumn statement in November, and around quantity of equity research in the London market, for example. Again, feeding into the sort of vibrancy of the London market. So a lot going on to try and make the London markets easier to access. Outside of the sort of regulatory side, we continue to innovate in a number of areas. We've done a really exciting transaction with Microsoft, which has seen them being a 4% shareholder. I think that, and you'll have seen some of the press around what that means for our sort of whole digital assets and digital infrastructure capabilities that we're kicking off a very important work stream around. We're doing a lot of work with retail investors. We took a stake in Primary Bid to try and make individual investor ability to access public markets transactions much more straightforward. Our issuer services platform is going from strength to strength. And we're also doing a lot of work in the private markets as well. I think one of the things that we have sort of, we stepped back a couple of years ago in terms of our broader strategy on what we need to be doing as a stock exchange, and say, well, at the end of the day, a stock exchange is really a venue where people who need capital meet people who have it, with something in the middle that makes them trust each other. And why constrain yourself with the listed environment when actually, with your position in the ecosystem, you really should be able to support companies at an earlier stage in their life cycle. So we've taken a stake in a business called Flow, which on the left-hand side is also private markets strategy, where we've already had now 5 or 6 companies that have raised capital on that platform, sort of Series A, B type levels, all less than sort of $10 million in capital raise. But again, just showing what can be done to support earlier stage companies, just execute their private placements in a more straightforward way on an LSEG run platform. And then in the middle, we're really excited next year to be launching an intermittent trading venue, which sort of sits between public and private markets, where it allows companies to be private, but then every 6 months, every quarter, to run an auction to help secondary shareholders, early stage investors get access to some liquidity at a point before they're perhaps ready to do an IPO itself. So some exciting things going on in terms of our sort of funding continuum. And then I wanted to come back really just to say, well, we're not just a stock exchange. We're not just trying to continue to make our capital markets as vibrant as we can, but we're trying to do everything else from a data and analytics side to provide investors, operators, issuers with the best-in-class data that we can on the sector. And I know that in the shipping market, historically, Reuters for many decades has had a preeminent data set in and around shipping, whether it's sort of tracking ships, analysis of those ships, ports data, etc. And all of that is now available through the merger of sort of Reuters with Thomson Reuters, that then became Refinitiv and is now LSEG's data and analytics business. That's all now part of the group. And if you're not aware of the if you sort of go onto a workspace terminal and type shipping, you'll get a feel for the wealth of data that now exists there for all sorts of market practitioners, be you a trader or an operator that is operating there. So that continues to go from strength to strength. And this is an example of, I think, one of the innovations of taking a listed company in Winwood that joined our market and provides a fantastic product that we've worked with our data analytics team to now embed within that data offering. So fantastic sort of map functionality. You can track vessels all around the world with a view in particular, of course, in the current sort of geopolitical climate of ensuring sanctions compliance and that who you think you're dealing with is someone you should be dealing with. So exciting sort of news and developments there, and that data set goes from strength to strength. And I think some of my LSEG data and analytics colleagues are here today. Irit's here from Winwood, if that's of interest, and we'll be delighted to sort of focus on that with any of you here today that are interested. And there's a convenient sort of email address, shipping@lseg.com, in particular for anyone interested in the data side and having those conversations. I think I'm probably around about out of time, Nicholas, but that was a bit of a whistle-stop tour, but really just to say it's an important sector for us, be it our public market access and vibrancy, albeit other things we're trying to do in the sector, and we look forward to building on that partnership with many of you here in the room. Shipping Week's always an exciting an adrenaline-fueled rush around hundreds of different events in the week. Very much hope to talk to you either sort of later today or at other events during the course of London International Shipping Week. And thank you, Nicholas, for your partnership, and great to be here. Thank you.